What's going on, folks? This is Victor with DLife HD, and today we're going to be taking a deep dive and looking back on the past 3 years of Splatoon 2. How does the game fare in a modern setting? How does it hold up, graphically and game mechanics-wise? So without any further ado, let's take a deep dive into Splatoon 2 3 years later.
Switch it up. Switch it up. I was a worker, had to upgrade to a boss. Used to live in the hood, but had to upgrade to a loft.
Giving a little bit of background on my history with the game, I initially had the opportunity to play it on a friend of mine's Switch around the launch of it in summer of 2017. So like I said, we're approaching the 3-year mark of this game. Wow. It doesn't seem like that long ago that I got on and I got to experience it for the first time. Now, the game wasn't a huge step from the original game on the Wii U, which I did end up picking up on the first day and really experiencing. They're pretty hand in hand. Some kind of like to consider this game, Splatoon 2, being a Splatoon 1.5. It only added a few extra things. But in my personal opinions, the additions that Splatoon 2 actually has compared to the first game is enough to justify the $60 price tag and the Splatoon 2 label on the title of the game. For those who don't know about the game, it is a third-person competitive multiplayer shooter, and you play as teenage kids who have the ability to morph into squids. And so a lot of the gameplay mechanic revolves around morphing into a squid where you can travel faster in your own ink. And so they really play heavily into the squid ink, which doesn't come out of the squid itself, you be playing as the character, but it comes from various types of weapons. And the main gameplay mode's main objective is a turf war where you cover the map with your own team's color of ink, and whoever has the most ground covered at the end of the matches, which usually last around 3.5 minutes long, is the winner of that match. So it's a very creative idea. In your own ink, like I said, you can turn into a squid and move much faster. And so on the fly, you can morph in between being a human, which runs slow, but you can shoot other players, or being a squid and moving quick. So that's just a general little gameplay loop it has there. And of course, like all competitive shooters, there is a competitive or ranked mode once you reach a certain level in the base game. And in there are different types of game modes that further how you play the game. Another thing that is unique about the game is its fashion sense and gun choice. So this isn't like a hero-based shooter where you have different types of kids that you play as. Instead, there are different types of weapons you can choose, each being unique. There's like rapid-fire guns, new to Splatoon 2 itself, dual guns. You have snipers, you have shotguns, you have all kinds of unique types of weapons that are done in an art style that really fit the game as a whole. And one kind of really heavy leaning aspect of the game is its like city urban style, and so everybody's into fashion, and you can get different types of clothing that will affect your stats within the game. And there's a really cool loop there where you can get different types of stats on each type of piece of clothing that you wear. So it is one awesome aspect that is really unique to the game itself. With the capability of the Switch's graphics, as most people know, the Switch is the weakest home console on the market compared to the latest iteration of the Xbox and PlayStation. Nintendo's never been known for their power in their consoles in a modern setting, but they sure do know how to pull off graphics on their own systems. Whereas games like Doom and Wolfenstein and The Witcher 3 being ported to the console, they take a very heavy graphical hit because they're made for higher-end PCs or higher-end consoles. Nintendo really optimizes and knows how to play with the graphics on their their first-party games. And Splatoon 2 being one of the early Switch games, the graphics on it is just fantastic. It is quite the upgrade from the original Splatoon on the Wii U. So it's really cool. A lot of times the way graphics work with first-party titles are the initial first-party drops when the system first comes out. They're good graphics and they're optimized well for the console, but as the life of the console continues, the developers learn how to use the graphical engines to really push the console to its limits. But I feel like Splatoon 2, it being an early drop on the console, wow, the graphics are stunning. The lighting effects used on the ink and like the reflection are incredible. The whole theme of the game is very summer, maybe beachy, and like sun-heavy atmosphere and vibe to the whole game. Like I said, it's very city, urban focused, and so the beating sun on the ink that you spread around is just amazing. The reflections, the way they work in this game. And so that is one thing that I feel like is very impressive on the title, maybe even compared to other Nintendo first-party titles in this modern setting. So that is one thing that people notice initially. And the characters, whereas they're all similar-looking kids, like teenagers that you play as, their art style in general compared to other human-like games that Nintendo puts out or even other major AAA third-party companies put out. It's just very unique, and the way that the squids are done and all the excess characters are done, it's just incredible how they've really pulled off this art style, and it continues to stay fresh, no pun intended, in this modern setting. Going on to going past graphical capability of the title, the gameplay is fantastic. Like, shooters, Nintendo has never really been heavy on shooters. We have the Metroid Prime series, and really outside of that, there just aren't a lot of shooters on the console, and Nintendo has really done a fantastic job of taking such a popular genre today with younger children and adults, just a very universal genre of the shooter, and making it their own. Like I said, you're not shooting guns with bullets and everything, you're shooting ink, which is, I mean, that's just not something you'll see from another company. And so the actual mechanics of the game really, really hold up today, and it's not too different than the initial game that came out on the Wii U. But Splatoon 2's just overall gameplay loop, as I mentioned previously, really, really holds up after the 3 years. There is a campaign that goes along with this game, so of course you cannot play the online multiplayer game in handheld when you're out on the go, and that's one downside. The Switch's main feature is that it can go from a docked TV mode to a handheld device that you can take with you, but the campaign where you play against AI, it's PvE, is just really, really fleshed out. They really did a good job taking what the campaign was known for in the first Splatoon and really polishing it and making the levels feel more cohesive together. And overall, I really enjoyed playing the campaign. It was fairly difficult for those who don't understand the way that the mechanics work in the game, and the bosses gave me a little bit of trouble, specifically the final boss, which one of my friends ended up completing on one of his first tries, but I ended up just giving up on and didn't beat until recently coming back to it. But being able to play that story, the Splatoon, which feels like this first-party TV-only game on the go with my Switch, going through and doing the PvE story campaign, was just a really fantastic experience. And having that being one of my first games that I ended up picking up on my Switch, having that experience initially was just really exciting for me, and that's something I look back fondly on. So the story really takes what the first game had and polishes it up, and today, 3 years later, I can go back and play through those levels again, and it feels just as exciting as it was 3 years ago. One final mode that was added to this title compared to the first one is the Salmon Run mode, and this is absolutely fantastic. It's a horde mode with boss rushes, and it's all computers, but it's multiplayer online, and you can invite 3 of your friends or play with 3 random people, and you go against these bosses who drop eggs, and you have to meet a certain quota in order to beat the round, while at the same time lots of smaller enemies are just attacking you, and you don't get to choose your weapons. It's always randomized. And so it's just this kind of random boss rush fun time. And honestly, when I really started to discover this mode, which was not in the original release, I didn't even want to play the other online function anymore. In fact, in my Discord server, this was the only mode that those who had the game played online. Like that, this is just, we love it so much. And it's very difficult, and it can get extremely, extremely hard in the higher level aspect. The way that it works is you're kind of, the way they do it as kind of a mini story is that you're hired out by a company called Grizzco to get these eggs. And the better you do, you level up and you reach harder, more difficult maps and everything. And so the more you progress through it, the harder it gets, and it can get insane. You can do local multiplayer and go in and set the bar to whatever difficulty you want instead of actually having to level up to it like you would on the online function. And playing on the highest difficulty is just insanity. So this extra function justifies the 2 symbol on Splatoon 2 100%. I would take this game, just the Salmon Run mode on its own for $60 if I'm being completely honest. So looking back on my time with Splatoon 2, it's just an exciting game that holds up so well outside of its online functionality, which struggles in keeping modernized. Like I said previously, and like everyone else knows, there is no voice chat unless you use the app, which not many people really want to use. I personally don't want to use it, so we go through Discord, as I mentioned earlier. But the online functionality in general has a few issues. For playing the main mode, if you join your friend, you're not guaranteed to be on their team. And that's just really wrong. Today, when we have Overwatch, we have Fortnite, and we have these incredible online shooters that I like to play with my friends, it's just kind of a crime to not be able to play on the same team and it be randomized like that. And so there's a few clunky aspects of the online function and a few quality of life general issues, like being able to skip the intro slides with these 2 diva characters that are kind of idolized in the world of Splatoon. They always give this intro and they just talk and you can't skip it. That's just wrong. And so like I've said, quality of life, just general fixes such as being able to skip that and the online function being really polished up kind of discredits the game, but the good in Splatoon 2 outweighs the bad, and that is true even today in this modern setting with these fantastic online games. And Splatoon 2 has sold millions worldwide. It's one of the highest selling Switch games. And it's awesome that Nintendo can start a new franchise and it take off so soon. Them taking a popular genre and doing a spin on it and just doing their Nintendo thing, it's just fantastic to see, and who could not want more of games like Splatoon 2? Alright guys, thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you like Splatoon 2? Did you enjoy the video? Or do you disagree with me? Let us know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like these. Also remember to check out our Twitter account for gameplay on the latest releases. In the description below you will see a link to our community Discord. It's a joint Discord with my podcast, The Nintendo Bros and D-Life HD. We play games like Splatoon 2 in there and always have a great time discussing the latest news on Nintendo and the world of gaming. Finally, remember to always stay one up.